Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a response to a tag. I was tagged by my good friend Robbie, aka The Secret Game Room. The tag he tagged me in was Marlinlee's Now That I Think About It tag. It's kind of a reflective tag. You've got to say, like, if you've got a system when you were younger and you were choosing between one or two or three different systems, and now you've got a different system, do you think you made the right choice? So it's like comparing competing systems. So obviously, like, now it's the Xbox 360, PS3, Wii. You might have chosen like the Wii, for instance, and then you got a PS3 later on, and you're thinking, did you make the right choice? And so what would you do if you knew what you knew now? And I think it's quite an interesting tag, and I'm gonna be doing my best to answer it. So, the first system I ever owned was a Sony PlayStation 2 Slim. I got this, I think it was in 2007, so not that long ago. Unfortunately this model no longer works. I use a Fat now, but yeah, this was my first system, and there's kind of a funny story about why I got this system. Well, I mentioned in a previous video that I used to be madly into Pokemon, and I wanted to play the Pokemon games, but I didn't realise that Pokemon was a Nintendo only franchise, so I was assuming that there'd be Pokemon games on every system, and I didn't bother to look it up because I just thought it was obvious. And I got a PS2 and I didn't realise there weren't any Pokemon games on that system, and then I was kind of upset about that. Yeah, it was kind of stupid, but anyway. But I'm still happy that I got this system because it's got quite a lot of good games on it. I'll show you a few examples of some of my favourite games. Got Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Kingdom Hearts, which is an RPG, Gran Turismo 4, which is a racing simulation game. It's got a lot of different cars and it's quite realistic, but like I said before, I'm not sure it's as much fun as an arcade style racing game like Crazy Taxi. I mean, they're very realistic, but you know, sometimes they lack a little in the fun factor, I think. So yeah, there's a lot of good games on the PlayStation 2. I'm not sure there's that many like great games that, you know, are must-haves. Well, certainly not in my collection. I don't think there's any that I would consider must-haves, but there's a lot of good games. There's quite a large game library. Obviously, graphically, the games still look quite good today. They're not HD. Well, some of them were HD compatible, but they're not quite as good as graphics on like the Xbox 360 or PS3. But they still hold up pretty well. One thing I do like about the PS2 is its versatility. As well as playing the PlayStation 2 library, you can also play PS1 games, like these for instance, and you can also play like CDs and DVDs, so it's kind of like a multimedia centre, and I think that was one of the main selling points for the PS2, because instead of getting a DVD player and an extra system to play games, you can just have it all in one, and I think that's why quite a lot of people bought the PS2, because it was one of the cheapest DVD players available, I believe. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with the PS2. I quite like it as a system. It's not my favourite system, but got a solid game library and good graphics. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that system. Okay, the next system that I'm going to be pitting against the PS2 is the Sega Dreamcast. Now, this was Sega's last home console, and it was a bit of a failure in the market. The PS2 kind of killed it because it had a DVD player, like I mentioned, and a lot of people wanting to get the PS2 for the DVD player, and the Dreamcast didn't have that, and also it didn't really have that much third-party support. A lot of publishers said they weren't going to support it, which was kind of like, well, if they were saying they weren't going to support it, then customers didn't really have much confidence in it either. And also, Sega's reputation had been damaged a little by some of their marketing practices with the Sega Saturn, like the Saturn Day fiasco. But I still like the Dreamcast as a system. It's got a lot of great games in my opinion. I said the PS2 had quite a few good games, but I think this has got some really awesome games that I'd highly recommend. A lot of them are first party games, although there were some third party publishers that supported the system, most notably Capcom, and Gigawing's one of my favourite games for the Dreamcast. It's an amazing shoot 'em up. I'd highly recommend it if you have a Dreamcast. It's a must have in my opinion. Also, Sega published some nice first party titles. Well, these were by Sonic Team, Sonic Adventure 2 and Phantasy Star Online, and graphically the Dreamcast was pretty powerful in my opinion. I mean, the games I've shown you here are really colourful, they look really nice even today. Sonic Adventure 2 looks a little dated, but Phantasy Star Online, I think that was pretty much the pinnacle of what was on offer at the time. I imagine it would have looked amazing back then, and it still looks good. So yeah, it's got an awesome library, and I'm hoping to expand my library of games for the Dreamcast. I like it a lot, although I don't play it as much as some other systems, but there's a lot of games on it I like. But one of the things I don't like so much about it is the controller. I mentioned in my Dreamcast controller review that I wasn't a huge fan of it, and you know, it's not so comfortable as the PS2 controller, but I suppose that's not a big deal. Well, it kind of is, but I think the game library is more important. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Dreamcast. It's a great system and I'm really happy to pick it up. In a minute I'll tell you how I think the PS2 and the Dreamcast compare, but first I'm going to move on to another system that was competing with the PS2 and Dreamcast. Now, the third system that I'm going to be pitting against the PS2 is the Nintendo GameCube. Now, I don't actually own a GameCube. I have a Wii, and that allows you to play GameCube games, and I have a few GameCube games, so I figured it'd be fair to pit that against the other two, because it's basically the same, it's just playing them on a different system. And I only have 4 GameCube games. These are Luigi's Mansion, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Mario Kart Double Dash, and F-Zero GX. And these are all great games, I'd highly recommend them. Some of them are from Nintendo, and Nintendo tends to make some really good first party titles for the system. Graphically, they're quite colourful, these games. Quite a lot of them are more cartoony than, say, the PS2 or Dreamcast games, but I still think they look good to this day. And Robbie, when he was talking about the GameCube, he said he wasn't a fan of the controller, but I actually really like this controller. It seems to fit really comfortably in my hand. The analog stick's nice and responsive, some nice triggers on the back. I suppose the button configuration is kind of weird. I mean, the A button's a lot bigger than the B button, and there's an X and Y button, but it still feels fairly comfortable. And it's really good for like driving games like Mario Kart Double Dash, because it feels very comfortable and you can squeeze the triggers to drift. So it works quite well in my opinion. So yeah, I think the GameCube was a good system. It didn't sell as well as some of the other competitors like the PS2, But it has some good games in its library. Mario Kart Double Dash is probably my favourite game for the GameCube. I'd highly recommend it. So now I'm going to tell you how I think the three systems compare. Now I've compared three systems from the 6th generation of gaming, the PS2, the Dreamcast and the GameCube. Now I'm going to give you my final verdict on what I think of them. If it was just the software alone, I'd say the Dreamcast wins because it has a lot of awesome games compared to the PS2, which has some good games, and the GameCube has some good games as well. So in terms of software, the Dreamcast would probably be my favourite, but on the other hand, the PS2 is much more versatile. It can play a lot of different things, including PS1 games, CDs and DVDs. So overall, the PS2 probably wins because it allows you to do more things. So I'm pretty happy that I went with the PS2. I mean, I think I would have been happy with the Dreamcast or the GameCube. So yeah, I think they're pretty evenly matched. Obviously, there's pros and cons with each system. The Dreamcast didn't have the biggest game library because it got killed pretty early. But I still think it's a really good system, just kind of underrated in my opinion. So now I'm going to be moving on to the 7th generation of video games. Now the first system that I got from the 7th generation of video games was the Wii. Here's the Wii remote. And the Wii remote is one of the things I like about the Wii. It uses motion controls, so you move around as though you're actually doing whatever you are doing in the video game. So if you're playing tennis, you'll swing the Wii remote like that, and it can also be like a pointer, like a gun, or a wheel like that. And there's also been like peripherals that have enhanced this, like the Wii wheel, which I've just shown you, which aid your movement somewhat. And I think it's really cool. I know motion controls are kind of divided opinion in the video game industry. Some people love it, some people hate it. I really like it. I think it's a really cool way to get you off your couch and exercising whilst playing video games. And there's a lot of games that make really good use of it. I think like Wii Sports Resort, I'd highly recommend this game. It's a great compilation of sports games, and it really showcases the power of the motion controls, and it also uses the Wii Motion Plus, which further enhances the motion sensing technology, and it feels really natural, as though you're really playing the games, like bowling. Well, I think they may be a little bit easier than actually playing the games in real life, but they do a pretty good job of replicating the activities. But not all the games in the Wii's library require motion controls. There's games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which are more traditional games, and they're also very solid. Nintendo has made a number of great first-party titles for the Wii, including those two I've already mentioned, and Super Mario Galaxy 2, which is one of my favourite games of all time, if not my favourite. So yeah, there's a lot of good first-party games on offer. I think third-party wise it's suffered a little. There's not so many big budget releases, there's a lot of shovelware, but there's still some good games out there if you know where to look. And in terms of graphics, some people say that the Wii has bad graphics. Now I disagree. If you look at a game like Super Mario Galaxy 2, I know it's not HD, but it's a very colourful game, and I'd actually much prefer that to some of the HD games we're seeing on the Xbox 360 and PS3. And I think the Wii has a solid library of games. Some are better than others, but I still recommend it if you're looking for a way to get off the couch, doing some exercise. It's a really innovative idea, and I really like it as a system. And also it's got the backwards compatibility with the GameCube, which is another bonus. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the Wii. It was my first taste of motion controls gaming, and I really enjoyed it. competing against the Wii, we have the Xbox 360. Now in terms of graphics, the Xbox 360 has HD graphics, whereas the Wii doesn't, so the games are a lot more photorealistic, and you can see that in games like Forza Motorsport 3. They're stunning visually, but obviously games aren't all about the graphics. I think gameplay is much more important. So sometimes games get too carried away with the graphics and forget about the gameplay. And some games can be a bit flat sometimes, like Forza 3 for example. I found it a bit boring after a while. There's a lot of fun games in the Xbox 360's library though, like Castlevania, Lords of Shadow and Gears of War 2. There's something there for everyone probably. And I think the Xbox 360 controller is really nice. It's got good triggers on the back, which work well with driving games and shooters. It's also got really good online play using Xbox Live. I think it's probably the best out of the free services on offer. The Wii isn't really that good in terms of online play. The PS3 has a PlayStation Network, but obviously that's had a few problems recently, and from what I've heard, I think the Xbox Live is better than PS3, the PlayStation Network. So in terms of online play, I think the Xbox 360 is probably the best, and it's got a lot of good looking games. And in terms of backwards compatibility, it can play some Xbox games but not all, so you're gonna have to look into that if you're getting Xbox games to play on the Xbox 360. It's a nice feature, but I wish it could have been with all Xbox games, but whatever. So yeah, I like the Xbox 360. I didn't really play on it that much, but there are some nice titles out there. And now I'm going to give you my final verdict on whether I think the Xbox 360 or Wii are better. So, do I think I was right to go with the Wii over the Xbox 360? Well yes, I think I was right. I really like the motion controls. I know the Xbox 360 is trying to jump on the motion controls bandwagon now with the Kinect, but the Wii is still my favourite. It's got a lot of great games from Nintendo. Obviously some of the third party offerings aren't quite as solid, but some of the games are real must-haves, like Super Mario Galaxy 2 and Mario Kart Wii, which is an awesome game. And I like the way the Wii's made it accessible to everyone. You know, you don't have to be an expert to be able to play games like Wii Sports Resort. You can just pick up and play the games. Obviously, if you're a hardcore gamer, you might not like the Wii as much, because sometimes there's a little lack in depth in terms of gameplay. And graphically, some people say the Xbox 360 and PS3 are better because they have HD graphics, but like I said before, it's not all about HD graphics. Sometimes it's about use of colour, and certain games on the Wii have really used this to good effect. And I like the versatility. Of the Wii remote. I think it's a really creative piece of hardware, and it's fun for all the family. And I'm really glad I went with the Wii. I mean the Xbox 360 is a good system. It has good online play, good graphics, but I don't play as much as the Wii, and I've kind of got bored with it a little. I think I definitely made the right decision to go with the Wii, because that does get played quite a lot. So those are my opinions. So the winners, in my opinion, were the Wii and the PlayStation 2, narrowly beating the Dreamcast. So I don't know if you agree with my choices. Obviously we've all got different opinions, so I don't mind if you disagree. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to tag someone, Cobra DVS. I'm going to tag him. He's a really cool YouTuber. I'd recommend you check him out. I'd like to thank Robbie for tagging me. It's been enjoyable doing this tag. I'm sorry if I rambled on a bit, but I hope you like my answers, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll put up another video soon. Bye.